Welcome back to the channel. Brandon with Davidson Audio, and today we're going to be doing an install video on the OEM Indian Motorcycle lower fairing kit for the 2020 to 24 Indian Challenger and Pursuits. The reason I want to do this install video is because when we did some of them on the road in our Carolina trip, we noticed that there was no instructions for the wiring for the lowers, which it is kind of common sense, but it can also be a little misleading on where the wiring would route. So I wanted to show that, but then also this is a good opportunity for me to show y'all how to put in the storage compartments, because that's what we're putting in this bike. That is the same process as putting our 6.5-inch speaker pod that we make, because it utilizes the OEM speaker pod for these lower fairings. So I wanted to show you that process so that way if you buy those from us, you know how to put them in. The install process of this really is simple. It takes about 2 tools, a T40 Torx and a 10mm socket, and everything goes together. So let me show you how to disassemble these. We'll put the driving lights in here, the harnesses, the cubbies, the storage bins, and I'll also show you our adapter. We'll get all that put in here, and then we're gonna get them installed on the bike real quick. All right, like I said, T40 Torx. I like to use the longer extension because there's some bolts that you gotta get from a long distance. So we've got this set up. What you're gonna wanna do first is you're gonna take your lower and you're gonna wanna remove this screw right here and these two back here, because those will release the painted part from the actual lower fairing. I guess you'd call this like the vent inner assembly. And then that will gain us access to the 2 T40s back here that will take this bin out, and then we'll get to the light because all the wiring routing is done back here and then it comes through the front. So let's get these 3 removed and get separated. All right, once you get those 3 out, you can just kind of tip them up, set them aside, because you want to make sure you keep your work area clean. You don't want to have them up here, set this back down and scratch them. And then you're just going to simply pop that apart, and that separates these two. As you can see, there's a little interlocking tab here. This is where the 2 screws are there, another interlocking tab, and the other set screw there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some of our paint protection film on this to protect it, and then we'll go ahead and get this part done, and then we'll put it all back together. Now that that is taken apart, there's these 2 T40s up here. You're going to take these off, and that's going to release the little, I don't know what you would call this, just an open pocket that Indian gives you from the factory with these. Then once those are out, just separate the 2 of them. You just got to kind of pull it up and out, and now we'll set that aside and not use it. Let's go ahead and jump to the actual driving light part, because you're going to want to route that wiring before you put the cubby back in here. So again, 3 T40s here. That will open this up, and then we can pop this blank out and put the light in it. With those removed, just take the cap off, set it aside, pop your blank out. You won't need that either anymore. Going to grab your new driving light. They aren't side specific. The biggest thing you're going to want to make sure, here's the Indian logo, that's going to face up. And then when we did them up on the road, they end up falling, like there's no locking tabs here, but they're going to kind of sit like right about there-ish, where the Indian logo is right about in this area, because the way these are designed, these have some retention tabs on the backside to hold it in. When you order your lower fairing light kit, you're going to get the wiring harness for it. So this is the part that plugs into the fairing. We'll show you that in a minute. And then it goes down to these 2 extra harnesses. The 2 harnesses after this part are the same length, so they're not side specific. They won't come plugged in like this. I plugged them in just because I wanted to. So you'll separate your actual fairing harness away from it. You'll take just one of them, and we're going to route it in here. So what I like to do is there's this hole right here down by this threaded insert. You're just going to push this through. And then I like to plug this in first because that's going to help us put this cover back on, because you kind of got to, oh, and we got lucky with it locking right in where it needed to be. Because then, like I said, the Indian logo is actually right over here, and that's going to help lock and orient that light where it needs to be. Then again, put the 3 T40s back in. You don't need to go crazy over torqued with them. I'm just going to put them in there and snug them up with the ratchet. All right, now that those are good and snugged up, one thing I do want to touch base on is these screws are steel and these inserts are brass. We have noticed on a fair amount of occasions you go to put some of these in and they'll squeak really bad. What we're thinking that's led to is, one, the difference in material, but two, these screws are coated with a black material. So as you can see, a lot of that material is worn off, so the one place for the material to go is into the insert. So if it does squeak, it will be fine, but also we do recommend just take a tap, run it through there, clean that out, and it makes a world of difference. Now on the front side, we're going to go ahead and push a little bit of that back, and we're just going to route this right along this little channel all the way up here. So you're going to see like it wraps around here and then interlocks here and up, and then there's another hole up here that we're going to fish this wire through and then pull it through. You can see that's going to lock the wiring in, and then when you get to the inside, if you can see this, let me route it real quick. You're going to route it through this hole, up around that tab and out, and that's just going to help keep it out of the way, because once we put this pod back in here, it's going to hold the wire into the back. So on this bike, this is the right lower here. So when you go to put your enclosure in, you want the grommet facing the side of the bike towards the actual frame part. So that's how you can tell if it's a left or a right, is the grommet will be facing towards that. And then for these, you would just open it up, and we have access to the 2 tabs back here, which orient to here. But what I want to show you is our speaker pod. We're going to go ahead and drop this one on, and then I'll show you on the left-hand side how our speaker pod looks. Because like I said, this half of the bucket is the exact same, so our speaker pod is going to bolt in exactly the same way. All you're going to do is you're going to take it, make sure that this tab catches up there, and then you just want to watch going into the back that you're lined up here, which we are. To secure this to the lower fairing itself, we'll reinstall these 2 T40s, and then we can get the painted part back on here. Those are the 2 bolts that you first do. That's going to secure the actual storage compartment or speaker pod to your lower. Now it's time to reassemble the painted portion to it and get this installed on the bike. This part is pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to slide it right back in just like that. We want to make sure our paint protection film isn't caught like it is right there. Put it back over. And then again, you got 1 screw here, which is the T40. Open this up, and there's 2 more in there, which is why we have the long extension. That right there is the fully assembled lower fairing with the optional glove box. We got our driving lights here. We'll just peel the sticker off for them. The installation kit here includes 3 Adele clamps, or 6 Adele clamps, and 6 10mm bolts. So we're going to put these on the crash bars and then fold them up, because that's what is going to hold these to the crash bars. So you'll need 3 of them per side. I like to use a 1/4-inch drive ratchet with a long extension on it for the same reason, to get up into here to be able to tighten all these down. So let's go over to the bike. I'll show you putting this on there. I'll assemble the left side and throw it on, because it's the exact same process. It's just one's right, one's left. That way we get the fairing off real quick and get the module installed and the harness, and then have the customer take it down to get flashed. So this is the fun part here. What we're going to do is just take them and push them like that, because that's how they're going to get held on. Put 2 of them towards the top, and then the same way down towards the bottom. They don't have to be perfect. Just kind of want to get them generally in the area. hold the wiring out. You're going to drop it. I like to pull, yep, close the door. And just pretty much drop the lower on there like that. And you're going to hold it up. Get the 2 Adele clamps up top so that way we can get these 2 screws started, and then we'll tackle the last one. Don't tighten any of these up completely until you have all 3 on here. Then you can go ahead and torque them down. Now that I have all 3 of them loosely put on, installed, I'm going to go ahead and get them torqued down. And I just like to hold it up towards the frame of the bike and torque them down. The actual install of the hard lower on the bike is complete at this point. Well, let's take the sticker off. How about that? So we're going to time lapse, show you me doing the left side. That way you can see that process, I guess. And then we're going to go ahead and take the fairing off and get the driving light module and the harness ran and get plugged in and put back on, so that way the customer can go get this bike flashed. Because the Challengers and Pursuits do require to be flashed, as we're adding another control module to it, whereas the Chieftain and Roadmasters don't, from my understanding. So let's go ahead and get the other side put on and get that part installed. This install is all wrapped up, but what I wanted to do was show you how the module goes in here, how we route the harnesses and everything, so that way y'all know how to do it yourself. There was no point in us showing you the left side of the lower fairing because it goes on the exact same way as the right one. Let's just go ahead and show you how this module and the routing needs to be done, and then we're going to put it back together and get the customer on the way. All right, so here is the extra module that you need to put in. This one has a Davidson audio fairing package, but it's very similar. So you'll use this connector, which usually is found plugged in up underneath here. You'll unplug it, you'll plug this in, it'll slide in, use the provided screw. And then the actual driving lights themselves utilize this connector right here. And then the shorter side of the harness is going to run up along here and down into the cubby hole. The other one you're going to route along the fairing tray through here, down through the side, up and then down, the same thing. And then you'll drop them down here so that way you can make the wiring connection and everything for that right there. And then the power button right here is what it's up there. You're gonna plug it in. You've got to pop this out. It's kind of nerve-wracking. You're gonna pop that out, push the new button in, and then the wiring connections are all made right back there. So like I said, for this install, that's a wrap. I just wanted to take a moment to show y'all how to put the lower fairing enclosures together, the lowers themselves, and the driving lights, because it's all kind of right there, so it's easier to make one video for all of that to help y'all through this process. Like I said, it's somewhat audio related, but it's not. This is the exact same process you're going to use to install our lower fairing 6.5-inch speaker pods right here, because like I said, same exact back half of the basket, we just have a new front on it. So that's going to wrap it up for this. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down there. Let us know. And for that, that's a wrap. I'm Brandon with Davidson Audio. If you're looking for the best aftermarket audio solution for your Indian motorcycle, make sure you check us out.